Hey friend, Roger Christofferson here again with another first listener review, and this is one that I have been eagerly awaiting to babble about since, I don't know, I think it was announced the end of last year if I'm not mistaken, but it's John Anderson and the band Geeks with their live album called Perpetual Change. And if anybody has listened to any of my stuff at all before, you may have caught the fact that I did a review of the studio album they did called True. That album was actually recorded after this, so it's kind of interesting to see what led to that album, I guess. And if I remember correctly, because I've watched a lot of the Band Geeks podcast, basically what they're known for is, or how it kind of started is, they just do, versions of other people's songs, like to the T, pretty much. And there's like a bunch of different people that join in. They have like multiple different musicians I've seen on that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think John Anderson did a song with them, and then it kind of led to this whole thing because he was so impressed with how they did their Yes music, and I could be a little mistaken on that one. So if I am, feel free to correct me. That's what this channel's kind of all about, is just sitting back and talking about music and just giving our opinions and whatever. So if I'm wrong, that's what this place is for. Anyway, so they did this tour back in, these shows back in 23, I guess. And there's a few different ones that I've seen on, on YouTube or whatever, but it's been a while since I've watched any of those, because I usually try not to cheat and do listen to stuff ahead of time. But what I thought was really interesting about this is all the music is early Yes stuff, and I don't think any of us have heard John do any of that stuff. Even when he was out there with Rabin and Wakeman, they didn't go. Well, the majority of the show wasn't this far back. Let's put it that way. In fact, it's funny. I was noticing that 8 of these songs appeared on Yes songs from '73, and then they had the Gates of Delirium and Awaken, which came after that, but. All the rest of the songs were the same as what were on Yes songs, so if you want a comparison, I guess you could do that. I haven't done that, but, I guess if you want to, you can. This is kind of led by Richie Castellano, who plays bass on this one, and he is also in Blue Oyster Cult. And the rest of these guys, I don't know. We got Andel Escalise on drums. I probably said that wrong. Christopher Clark. And Robert Kipp on keyboards. Yes, it took 2 keyboardists to recreate the Wakeman stuff, because the majority of this is Wakeman, and Andy Graziano on guitars. There was a guest appearance here by Rob Schmal, who played some acoustic stuff, like the intro to In You and I and Your Move. It's kind of like Steve Howe did back in those days. He brought out acoustic stuff and did little things there. In fact, Steve Howe, I think, to this day still plays the same guitar solo, the one that he's been doing forever live. And I've seen Yes and I've seen Asia live a few times, so I'm kind of familiar with what Steve Howe does. I've seen it a few times, and he still does that same guitar solo. But anyway, back to this. It starts out, I know it's one of the more straightforward songs, but it's always been one of my favorites since I was a kid, is Yours Is No Disgrace. And of course I was listening for the little part in the middle where he does his kind of a little muffled little stroking thing in the middle, which I always thought was cool when I was a kid. And he did it pretty much perfect. And I've seen Yes and got, of course, tons of Yes bootlegs and whatever, and Steve Howe's never done it that good. And I'm just going to make this little thing there. One of the things I noticed about this live album here is it's perfect. It's pristine. The performance is flawless, from all of these guys. That's something I kind of wonder if anything was fixed or not, because it was so good. Even Steve Howe doesn't play this stuff this good live, so I don't know. Maybe they just really are that good. It's very possible, but and that's no dig on Steve Howe. He's one of the most amazing guitar players out there, and he created these parts. So they're really intricate, so it's very difficult to play this stuff. However, I will point out it took 2 keyboardists to cover the Wakeman stuff. And yes, I know Patrick Moraz was originally on a couple of these, so don't want to forget him, but yeah, it took 2 keyboards to cover that stuff, so just throwing that out there. But yeah, the performances were great. Now, Chris Squire, who just happens to be one of like my favorite bass players of all time, is an impossibility to cover. However, Richie Castellano does a great job. The parts are all there. It sounds very close to Chris Squire's sound. And that's the thing about the rest of this. He's probably the closest, obviously drums too, but they did a very good job of recreating the rock solid rhythm section of Yes, even though it's extremely intricate stuff. They did that. I mean, you can't get Chris exactly. The sounds that came off his fingertips, just the way he made, that aggressiveness still, the aggressive sound that he got from the bass still sounds smooth. That's hard to copy. But this isn't these aren't the original guys, so doing that well, I thought was actually really good. The sounds, key sounds, a little different than the original stuff, but they really do a really good job sounding as close to the original as possible. So I can't fault them for anything there. Now, as far as the songs themselves, like every single song here is like what you'd probably want to hear from that era. They're all very long. There's only 10 songs, but it's like you're talking over 2 hours of music here. Yours No Disgrace, obviously I mentioned that. Perpetual Change, the title, Close to the Edge, which actually I just reviewed that whole remaster that they just did and box that they just redid. It's here in its entirety. Heart of the Sunrise, one of my favorite bass songs of all time. They do that very intensely well on here. Starship Trooper, of course. Awaken, probably a lot of people think, I know I've heard a lot of people mention it as being one of their favorite Yes songs of all time. Then we've got And You and I, which I have not heard in a very long time. Your Move, I've Seen All the People. And then Gates of Delirium was the kind of surprise one on here. 22 minutes, the whole thing. It's insane how they remembered how to play all this stuff. I can't even imagine the hours that went into practicing all this. And of course, they end with Roundabout, probably their most famous song or single from that point in time. Not one of my favorites, but it's there. So if anybody has anything to complain about in the song list there, I don't know. I think there's enough there to cover every of those early albums and preferences that people may have. It's kind of funny. These guys are out there, not Yes, and in my opinion, sounding more like Yes than Yes has sounded in forever. And John Anderson's vocals are insane. He was, 78 at this point? And he just sounds just as strong and like pitch perfect as ever. I don't think John gets enough credit as an actual musician. I think, sometimes people think singers are not that important as far as writing songs. My opinion is that a lot of singers don't get the credit they deserve. And John is one of the ones that I don't think gets nearly the credit he deserves in the creation of this music. I think he led the band a lot, and the structure of the songs and the melodies and the harmonies on this, top notch. Richie does the majority of them there, but there's a few songs where there's 4-part harmonies going on, and it's nothing's off. So they took a lot of time and effort going into this, and it shows. Really enjoyed this. I would go watch these guys live. I think I probably enjoy this more than seeing Yes at this point in time. And I love all the guys in Yes, but I haven't been too excited about the last few albums they did. I actually haven't seen them with not John Anderson, that's the new singer, John Davidson. Last time I saw them was been quite a while. It was with that Benoit, and I can't think of his first name now. David Benoit, was that his name? Saw them on that tour, and after Chris passed away, I didn't really have any desire to go go out and watch many artists. It's my personal thing, you know. But other than that, this was definitely well worth the money that's on this. There is a DVD, although I've seen the videos on YouTube and they're not extremely well filmed. It's a lot of stationary shots, no close-ups, and no real, I don't know, the editing's a little strange from what I've seen, I don't know, but the CD itself is definitely worth it. So anyway, if anybody has anything to add, as always, I welcome that freely. Starting to get back to healthy here again, so hopefully this wasn't too boring to sit here and listen to me talk with half a cold still, but as always, I ask you to like, share, and subscribe to keep this music alive, because I definitely would love to hear these guys do some more stuff for sure. And until then, we will see you.